Woman who got married young, early 20s. What are the pros and cons of this decision? Please subscribe and activate the beside the subscribe button to get a notification. Share your own story in the comments section below. Con: I've never lived alone. There have only been 3 years of my life I've had my own bedroom. Pro: everything we have we built together. There's no his and hers. It's all good and bad ours. We are a team. We've been together more than half our lives, which I suppose could go in cons too. I agree with these. Sometimes I wish I would have lived on my own for a while. I'd like to do it right now. JK, sort of. Same here, lol. Honestly, when you go from living alone for years to sharing a life with someone, you realize how lonely you actually were. At least this was the case for me. Can work the opposite way though too. I only moved in with my partner 3 years ago after living on my own my entire adult life. It's only now I realize how lucky I was. Ha ha ha. Obviously I love my partner, but the freedom of having a space that is entirely your own is a real luxury. Can relate to all this. My so and I have been together 10 years, since school, but not married. We ended up taking a break for 2 years and I got to live alone during that time. I loved it. I mean, coming home to everything the way I left it every day, watched whatever I wanted whenever I wanted, only ever my washing up to do, things decorated exactly to my taste, come and go without having to tell or explain to anyone. I mean, all these things sound quite mundane, but it was the best time ever. Anyway, we're back together now and moving to our new apartment on Monday, and I'm really looking forward to doing things with him again because there's also so much fun stuff we do together that I never did alone. I love him to bits, but I'll definitely make the most of my me time too. Have fun in your new apartment. Thank you. 3. Pros: you get divorced early whilst you are still young, and you can then tell people I got married young when they ask you why it didn't work out. Update: thank you all for the likes and the award. I never thought anything good would come out of my divorce, but look at that. I am so glad that I am not the only one who married young to divorce. I often wonder if there are women out there like me, and it's comforting to know that there is. I wonder if we should start to r/divorced before 30? This is the main pro for me. Already been and done it. Can do other things with my life now. That's such a great way to look at it. Makes me feel so much better about it. Pros: getting to live with and be married to my best friend earlier in life. Cons: as you grow older you really can change drastically, and sometimes that you may not be as compatible anymore. I am a totally different person now and I have a completely different outlook on life, but thankfully it causes no issues between me and my husband. We grew together, I think, but that's not always the case with young couples. Definitely felt this. Pro: in addition to what others have said, I'm proud of how long we've been together. I like telling people we've been together 20 years, married 15 years, and I'm only 37. I feel that unwary, full-hearted teenage butterflies and puppy love for him. Many of his male friends have told him they would have traded the dating scene in their 20s for young love and marriage. Comments like these make me want to marry my BF. A cute comment. Married my HS sweetheart at 23. I personally can't name a con. I love my husband. I love the life we have built from the ground up together. I love how well we know each other, because we literally grew up side by side. Young adulthood can be really difficult, and I feel so blessed that I didn't have to face it alone, undefined. That sounds so nice. I think I finally met the guy I'm going to marry now at 30. My 20s were a lonely, depressed mess. I don't think it helped me to grow or anything. It just made me miserable to be alone. You are very lucky. I'm so happy that you've found someone now. I definitely am lucky, and thankfully I know it. Married at 19. Pros: after all the cheating, it changed me into someone I like better. Cons: after all the cheating, it left behind a mental illness. We're divorced. Your story is the exact same as mine. Hope you're feeling better because I'm still in a mess. If it makes you feel any better, I came out of my last relationship with a mental illness and we weren't married and there wasn't any cheating. Sometimes the other person just does a real job on you. Hope you keep doing better as time goes on. Con, never lived alone. Didn't get to date much, and for me personally, there was a lot of growth and we grew into different people. Pro, it's easier to build a nice life when you have a partner. We had 2 houses before we were 30, we had a lot of personal growth. I got married at 24 and we're celebrating our 3-year wedding anniversary next week. Biggest pro was that once I realized I wanted to get married to him, actually doing it provided me with a feeling of settlement. Another pro was that being the first of our friends to get married, there was no expectations about how our wedding should be, and no comparisons with friends' weddings. I wore a floral jumpsuit to our courthouse wedding, only parents, siblings present. Then we had a 60-person casual party in my mom's backyard a couple months later. Our party theme was wear your favorite t-shirt. It was young and silly and perfect for us. Con, I think people tend to look down on young marriages, at least where I live. Happy anniversary. I wish I had a different answer to this, but a lot of my friends married young. No one who married before 26 is still married. We're all about 40ish now. Married at 25, still married at 41. My parents were married at 19 and 21, still married at 67 and 65. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. Thanks for this. I just got engaged and I'll be married when I'm 25. Some of these comments are giving me anxiety, and yours help give me hope. My parents got divorced, and I never, ever want to put my kids through that. Thanks for these encouraging words. My husband and I were both children of divorce and we swore we wouldn't do that to our kids. Marriage is not always easy. But if divorce isn't an option in either of your minds, you work through the rough spots. Good luck. For me it was less about my age but more about how secure I felt in the relationship. I just happened to be 25. But we had been together 5 years already. It's corny but I do believe that when you know, and there's no sense in waiting if you're able to afford the wedding you want and if you're both emotionally ready. I will say, I love the idea of being able to celebrate so many anniversaries before we grow old together. Although, I just knew with my first husband, I felt pretty smug about our relationship. We lived together for 8 years before marrying, then he developed mental health problems and we were divorced 2 years after that. It all worked out fine for me in the end though. I'm not married but one of my best friends is, so from what I can tell. Pros. She gets to live the life she always wanted with the person she's always loved very early. They both grow together and have someone else to rely on as they are going through adulthood. Cons. People constantly telling them they are going to end up divorcing, telling them how they ruined their lives and generally judging them. Yeah, that's real. Some of my friends have gotten divorced and they always follow up the news with, "Don't get married young guys," and like. Everyone's story is different, so I don't think it's right to fully blame your relationship ending based on the fact that you got married young. But in my experience, getting married young was great, but I went into the experience smart. I knew signs of abuse and how to look for them early on. I made my goals clear to ensure they aligned together, as well as we regularly check in with each other about goals and aspirations. And we took budgeting and financial classes together to make sure we knew what we were doing. I went straight from my parents' home to our home, which was a huge emotional shift. I also had to go from having anything I want, reasonably, to having the bare necessities. From being single and free to obligated and married. Is being married nice? Yes. Was it worth it? Yes. But I wish I got to be single outside my parents' house. Same here. I wish I had experienced life alone for a while to figure out who I was and what I really wanted. I just got married at age 22. I'm 23, so I'd about the long terms but short term so far. Pros. We have a happier and healthier relationship in our 5 years of being together than literally any other couple we know, including our parents, learning together, getting to watch each other grow and evolve, getting to be each other's one supporters and encourage them to apply for new jobs, promotions, or work hard. Neither of us were ever into the sleep around, do lots of drugs and party lifestyles, so we don't really feel like we are missing out on anything. Working and then coming home to spend time together suits us well. Cons. Every miserable divorcee or single mother of 2 has to tell me how stupid I am for getting married so young and literally won't shut up about it every time we encounter each other. Sometimes his parents kind of put some pressure on us about kids, and they don't accept that just because we are married doesn't mean we want kids right now. People our age are still jobless, living on their parents' couches or working 10 hours a week with no plans for the future, so it's hard to relate to our friends sometimes, not because we are married, but I think because we both already have a path we want to go on for our lives and our friends still feel lost in theirs. Overall, love it, wouldn't rather have it any other way. I'm reading through these threads and I'm noting there are a lot of young military couples. Neither of us is in the military and there was no urgency to marry, no outside pressure, we just felt ready. It's kind of upsetting the number of people who say that you'll get divorced or but you're so young, like we both wanted to marry each other. We're not dumb, we fully understand that it's hard and takes work, but we are willing to put in the work. Everyone has their own path, and just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean that it won't work for us. I was 19 for all of 3 months and he was barely 20. The only real con was how rough it was in the beginning. We had inexperience of life, money problems, living on our own for the first time while being 3 hours away from our families, and a few very serious life crises all at one time. But the fact we made it through strengthened our bond into something unbreakable. We have too much shared heartache, trauma, tribulations to think that someone else could replace either one of us. The grass never looks greener to us, we know better. Pros. Besides what was mentioned, we know each other's sexual and dating history, no baggage and nothing to worry about. We were very much on the same page before we had our son, so very little had to be discussed, and if so, it was usually pretty quick meeting of the minds rather than develop strategy. The trust is so strong. Besides, I absolutely love the look on people's face when I say we have been married 27 years now. So sweet, I love it. I married my high school sweetheart at 20, and I really wish I had done more first. I wish I had been able to figure out who I was and what I really wanted and needed in a partner before getting married. Are you still together? We are. But we're growing apart, plus a lot of other issues. I honestly don't know how much longer we are going to last. I'm sorry to hear that. I wish you the best in whatever happens moving forward. Pros. That about sums it up. Honestly. Glad to see it. The comments in most of the thread are making me feel really lonely relatively and defective. I'm on my 5th relationship, and while I'm very hopeful about him, I can't deny that my luck in finding people had just been bad, and I don't have confidence in myself in this relationship because the last 2 went so bad. Don't feel like you are defective. You managed to miss out on some pretty rough times. I think the major takeaway from this is getting married young is it's the right person. If it's not, it's going to suck just as much as it would at any other time. But also I get it. I thought I'd be married to my high school boyfriend within a couple of years out of college. We broke up years ago since we just were the right people for each other. I've had a couple serious relationships since and am currently in one. Yet, in the back of my head I do wonder what would have happened. Met when I was 20, married at 24, cons never lived alone, he did, not much of a con because we very much explore our own interests and are independent people. Pros: we were there for each other during some of the hardest parts of our lives, and it's made our bond unbreakable. We know each other so well, we are on the same page for almost everything. We were learning who we were as people still when we met, so I feel that helped us learn so much about each other at the same time. There wasn't a lot of dirty laundry to air out. Had our 2 kids before I turned 30. So when they're grown we'll have lots of time to enjoy our lives together, and if grandchildren come around someday I'm excited to be young enough to be an active grandma. 15 years and he's been there for me for almost half my life. I don't have to explain why a situation triggers me because he was there when the original situation happened. There's so much really. The only con I can think of is that I have zero dating advice for my daughter. I was almost 23 when we got married, but he was my first love, my junior and senior prom date. We had 10 years together, roughly half of them married, before becoming parents, so our relationship was on really solid ground before we complicated it with children. He knows me better than I know myself, and at this point, I don't know who I would be without him. I haven't been lonely for 20 years. And I can't recall ever regretting not having the chance to date around or live alone. Pro: you could say how long you've been together and it shocks people. Con: people change and true colors come out. No matter how long you'd been together, there are things you still don't know. Getting married young wasn't always bad, but when the bad far exceeds the good, it's hard to build a life on your own when you'd been learning the ropes as a couple. Clearly I'm divorced now and I'm grateful. I know we were better on our own than we were together. Married at 18, we have been married 28 years this year. Pro: spending your life with someone you love, building our life together, young enough not to bring too much baggage into the relationship, growing together and becoming better people with the help from my partner. Con: people judge you and don't take your relationship seriously. I was 22 years old when I got married. It's been extremely difficult to gain skills and go back to school in my 30s. Due to my husband serving in the military and living overseas, it's been difficult to keep employed or develop a skill set. I've been supporting him and raising our son. I did get my associates and now I'm working up towards a master's degree. Unfortunately, I only have work experience in retail and the food industry for now. My pay is horrendous compared to what I could have been making much earlier if I went to school. I don't regret the decision though. I married my best friend. I grew up in a toxic family that I ended up cutting off. I wouldn't have anyone if it wasn't for him and my son. His support alone has been worth waiting to go after my education. I'm also a lot more mature and have life experience. I've been picking affordable colleges for my education. I picked a major I'm passionate about that will help me make a decent income. When I was younger I would have done something in the arts that would have been a lot more expensive and risky for employment. I'm glad I didn't. Another pro is I was able to get away from my parents and start healing from my childhood. I grew up real fast living in a foreign country and giving birth to my son there at 22 years old. I learned quick to make boundaries in family relationships. I became a lot more emotionally intelligent due to awareness of my son and husband. I'm 33 years old now. We've been married for 11 years. I have no regrets. I just have a lot on my plate while going to school full time. I do wish I could have had the full college experience. I was 23, so I think that counts. I'm 28 now. I think that's also a key data point. Especially since 5 years is non-trivial, but not actually that many. People who got married at 18 and are 19 now are maybe not necessarily going to have an accurate view of whether it was a good idea, and you should trust someone who is in their 40s about this more than you should trust me. Pro: you don't really have to worry about the complexities of merging a household when you've been a single household since you had $2 between you to rub together. You can grow up together and build closeness and trust in a way that's different from adjusting to trusting someone who comes into your life later. I suspect I would have a hard time building the same level of feeling secure with someone who hadn't known and loved me when I was a teenage idiot. It may also have helped the start of my career a little. People sort of tend to think of you as older and more responsible if you're married, you know, I mean, realistically this is not a statistically wise choice, right? I got super lucky that my particular cute boy has grown up to be a mature, dependable adult. Every girl insisting that of course her boyfriend just hasn't quite found himself yet thinks she's going to be me, and 95% of them end up miserable because theirs doesn't grow up. Also, I've never lived alone and I sometimes worry that I am missing skills I would have gotten from that experience. I got married at 18, less than a month from my 19th birthday, no cons. We both knew what we wanted. We talked about marriage a week in with both of us saying that we didn't want to date anyone seriously unless we could see it leading to marriage. Pros: like someone else said, we're a team. We had nothing and everything we've got we worked for together. We're completely comfortable with each other. We have no secrets from each other unless someone confides in us that could damage our relationship in any way. We know each other so well that there are almost no issues with communication. How long have you been married? Married in Vegas at 18. Pro: cool story. Con: divorced by 20. Started dating at 19, married at 23, currently 29. Pro: the double income was honestly spectacularly helpful when starting my career, because it allowed us to move to a high-call city. With the field I was in starting out, it honestly wasn't something I could have feasibly done without him. It's been fun experiencing our 20s together, and to be honest, I think our marriage has made it less hard. It's honestly easier to pay down debt and save together. We've traveled to several countries and have a house. We're expecting our first baby in July. Con: I have no idea how online and app dating works. I'm honestly really bad at dating advice, because I haven't dated anyone new in a decade, because he was a lot of my firsts. I never got to experience a lot of dating around. It's not something I regret, but it's a little odd to think about sometimes. Also, career-wise, I can't do any major moves to another city because his career is most stable here, but that's an overall marriage issue. Overall comments: my husband and I have similar life values, career goals, thoughts on finances, and aspirations. I don't regret our relationship or marriage at all. He's my best friend and we have a blast together, and it's wild we have a decade of inside jokes together. I love him absolutely, and the pandemic further cemented it for me. I've barely interacted with anyone but him in person for over a year, and it's fine. We've been happy and bonded even further. Marriage has worked out tremendously for us. But I know it's not for everyone at this age. You really have to think about what you want and the long-term compatibility. I've had a handful of friends who got married around our age that are divorced. It happens. The dating app thing made me LOL. I feel like such an old woman when my single friends have to explain things to me about how dating apps work. I am terrible with dating advice and it's so